You're tuned in to In5D Radio, the next dimension in radio where we bring you the hottest, in-depth, spiritual, metaphysical, esoteric conversations and news. With your hosts, Greg Prescott and Heidi Cole. Get ready for spirit, body, and mind to expand in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so Santos is right now asking me if he's able to call in through Skype. I'm giving him our Skype number, and we should have him here any second now. So everybody, thank you for being patient. I got to tell you though that Santos has a lot on his plate. I know that he's got a new movie that he's working on, and he wants to get that up and going as soon as possible. And he's working to get that going, and he's got everything else on his plate. He does so much to help humanity. So,
right? He's about to fly out. He's about to fly to Ecuador to start filming there. So it's insane for him right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Santos says he's in and he hears us right now, but I don't see him on the switchboard. I'm sure he'll pop up shortly. So we're just waiting to see his number pop up here on the switchboard.
He's calling in from Skype or
he says he's in and he hears us right now. So, but I don't see him on the switchboard yet. So.
Well, sometimes they're gremlins. So.
There is a way to bring them in too as the host, but I'm not the host. You're hosting, and I'm co-hosting, calling as the co-host this week.
Do you want me to go off and then you can bring him in?
Yeah, that might work as well. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Right. Yes. Awesome. We're going to bring his mic live. And all right, guys, thank you for being patient. We have a very special Australian guest tonight, or this morning in Santos's case, who is known on YouTube as Mr. Astrotheology, and if it wasn't for his videos, then none of us would have as thorough of an understanding about what's going on in this world and how it all ties into astrology, astrotheology, and the occult sciences. So it is truly my pleasure to introduce everyone to Santos Bonacci. Hi, Santos. Welcome to In5D Radio.
Oh, thanks, Greg. It's my pleasure. Absolutely. I could have been on earlier if I didn't have so much computer trouble either. So.
Hi, Santos. It's Heidi. How are you? Thanks for showing up.
Hey, Heidi. Thank you kindly for inviting me on. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, as I think everyone, all of our In5D Radio listeners are curious about my first question. As we approach the golden age, where is the evolution of humanity and consciousness heading?
Wow. Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? Yeah, that's a biggie. But with the fixed air of Aquarius, see, always add the stars in all of your understanding. As the heavens line up so that the equinox is in Aquarius, so the equinox is pointing to Aquarius, it will channel in Aquarian fixed air energy for humanity. We are always going up, always, unless we choose to go sideways or backward. That's a personal choice. There are people on the planet who are going sideways. They're going nowhere, forward or up. And there are people that are really, really going backwards. These would be your banksters, people who have no problems extinguishing the life of a fellow human being for profit and, fiat currency. And we've seen that. We know all about that negativity. Those people are definitely going backward. But we the enlightened, the conscious, we have the help of the stars now. We always have. Pisces always kept us underwater. Pisces is about deception with Neptune as its ruler and Jupiter, the tyrant, in his negative capacity. But there's also another exaltant planet in Pisces, and that's Venus. So you have to look at those three orbs, but in particular, Neptune in between the two benefics, Jupiter and Venus. See, Pisces should be a really good, happy old age. a happy age rather, because of Jupiter, the ruler, and Venus, the exalter. They are benefics, but you see, deception comes in through that watery element. Now we are in air, and air is humane, it's mental, it's spiritual. Humanity has a great opportunity to make big advancements. You and I and the listeners, we are poised to take those benefits and receive them because we're here. You know, we're having this conversation. We are looking for betterment and improvement. And those ones will receive that. We will receive that. And so we can only look forward to the Aquarian mini golden age that has always been promised. In fact, Giordano Bruno, even earlier than that, I think of the Renaissance, Pico and his master and his teacher Marsilio Ficino. They would greet each other in the Renaissance days as a salute to Saturn, knowing that when his dominion comes back in the age of Aquarius, all things will be sorted out and balanced and leveled out, because Jupiter just gives too much of a good thing, which turns out to be a bad thing. Jupiter has given us, along with his consort Juno, money, capitalism, abundant material wealth at the expense of poor people. So we've seen unbalance for 2,000 years. The two fish, they give you two things, good and evil. All the mutable signs do. The mutable signs are noted for this. But fixed signs, well, they're fixed. This is fixed air. All the great astrologers know that when we enter air, humanity prospers and benefits more than any other signs. The other signs might be inspirational, like Aries, but it's animalistic. It's a ram. Leo, the passion, but it's a lion, a roaring lion. The horse, even, beautiful sign. There's a man coming up out of a horse. In other words, humanity coming up out of the animal nature. But it's still not as perfect as Aquarius. This is why the scriptures, the New Testament, Jesus says, when you see the sign of the Son of Man in the heavens, know that the kingdom of heavens is drawn near. So it's all up positive.
You know, based on the writings of Sri Yukteswar, and I've heard you quote him before, we're on the threshold of the Golden Age. Would that be the mini Golden Age? And do you think this is accurate? And if so, when will it begin?
Well, I think it's we've gone through the portal on the 21st of December 2012. That date was definitely singled out by many, many calendars. And in particular, we refer to the Mayan calendar, but certainly we did go through something very, very special. We are now on the other side of what we have known. And the elites have pushed their program of economy, capitalism, growth, New World Order, and all of this for a good solid 200 years now. And in particular, they have, been promoting a very old school economic system which no longer serves us. It's an Austrian school from the 1900s, and it was great when the Industrial Revolution was still happening, but it doesn't work anymore. And so that was all under the auspices of Jupiter and Juno, and the deception of Neptune, and the lust of Venus also in the age of Pisces. We have two new rulers now, Uranus and Saturn, and those guys don't mess around. They don't give you a gift so that they can then give you, a poisoned gift which will hurt you in the end. These guys don't mess around. Uranus, whatever we get from Uranus in the next 2,000 years, will be illuminatory. It'll be inspirational. It will be true. It'll be from the higher realms. Uranus is the first orb outside of Saturn's. So the name Uranus means heaven. So the heavens are here. But 2012 is a very important date for all the keen listeners who love their astronomy. You might want to get a pen and paper. I'll jot down some figures for you, and you'll understand what 2012 is all about from a Bible perspective. JC, or Jesus Christ, and notice, if there was a Yeshua, a prophet, a great divine ascended master who was called a savior, he wouldn't have been called Jesus, because that's just short for Jupiter and Zeus, Jesus. And the Romans did that for convenience. But if we're talking about a Jewish dude that kicked around in the Middle East around that time, his name would have been Yeshua, and there would have been a lot of differences between him and the Gospel Jesus. The Gospel Jesus is a literary creation, pure and simple, just like Humpty Dumpty, just like Santa Claus. Great truths, great morals, great teachings, but they are literary, not literal. So we, the wise, hopefully, I don't consider myself wise, but I do consider myself enlightened rather than educated. We know the difference between a literary work and a literal work. So what you'll find in the Gospels is that Jesus, the so-called JC, was born 4 BCE. So that's 4 years before the zero date of the beginning of the Common Era. Now, I have shown many, many times in my presentations that JC stands for Julian calendar, or Julius Caesar. And many, many great writers have pointed this out way before me. It's not original. I'm just repeating, but it's true. JC is the Julian calendar, which began on the 4th of the era before our Common Era. Now, if you add 4 years plus 2012, you come to the magical number of 2016. Now, most people who understand the cycle of precession will automatically resonate with that number, 216. If you get all the planets, Jupiter, the big boys, from Jupiter up to Pluto, those 5 planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, you will find that they all have cycles that converge on the year 2016. In other words, if you do 72 cycles of Saturn, you will come to 2016 years. Uranus has an orbit of 84 years. Multiply that by 12, you come to 2016 years. Neptune has an orbit of 168 years. Multiply that by 6, you come to 2016 years. Pluto, I'll go back to Neptune, 168 years. Multiply that by 12. Excuse me. And then go back to Uranus and multiply that by 24. 24 revolutions of Uranus give you 2016 years. This is all exact. This is all precise. Now, for the listeners who are keen, they might want to grab a book called Key to Heaven, Key to the Bible and Heaven by Ludwig B. Larson. And you will find Jupiter also. We haven't done Jupiter yet. Jupiter, once you multiply his 12-year orbit, you'd need to do that, I think, about 140 times. I'm just trying to find the figures here so I can be more exact. But all you need to do is grab a calculator and you'll work out exactly how many times Jupiter has to go around to do exactly 2016 years. Anyway, The point being, folks, is that 2016 years is the exact figure that they give for the rulership of an astrological sign. Now, some will argue that it's 2,160, and you will notice again 216 turning up again. Because what they do is they take the precessional year number of 25,920 and divide it by 12. Well, that gives you 2,160 years. So most of your astrologers will tell you, most of your scientists, that a precessional month is 2,160 years. But if you grab a calculator and work on the 5 big orbs, you'll find that they all converge harmonically at 2016. And there you have evidence in one of the most sacred books ever written that we have this particular time period very, very well known, very well mapped out and prophesied about. This is why everyone, absolutely everyone, was looking at the year 2016. They won't tell you, the Vatican will never tell you that that was a marked date and that it marks out exactly 2016 years, which is a magical convergence harmonic number for the 5 timekeepers of our solar system. All of them. Now, Pluto is out by a handful of years. But because his orbit is 248 years, he drops 8 years each time he goes around. But, point being, he still converges around about that magical figure of 2016. So I'm really, really happy to have shared this magical number. It is clear also in the Bible, just in case people don't know the scriptures very well. In the Gospel of Luke, the first 2 chapters, you need to read those 2 chapters to find this information, that the so-called Jesus was born at the time of Herod, because you see, we remember that Herod wanted to kill this new king. He didn't want this new king. So he sent, supposedly, he sent killers to go after and kill this little boy. Now, history tells us that this particular person, historical person, Herod the Great, died exactly on the year 4 BCE. So we have the evidence there, and we have the time span of 2016 years, and there it is. And Uranus is the true marker, the true planetary marker of this 2016 year period. If you halve 2016, you get 1,008 years. So 12 orbits of Uranus mark a 1,000-year period pretty much to the year. You can round it off to 1,000 years. I mean, 1,008 years. You know, you're going to round that off to 1,000, aren't you? So this is why the Bible repeatedly says that a day with man is like 1,000 years with God. It's talking about the planets. Everything is there. All the keys are there. Every single number in the Bible is dealing with precessional numbers. Why is 72 such a precious number in the Bible? 12, 7, 40. And I'll stop right there. I can mention 30. I can mention 36. I can mention 153. Why did the apostles, after Jesus died and was ready to resurrect, why did they count the fish that they had caught to be 153 fish? Well, Pythagoras will tell you that. That's the number of the fish. It's the number of the Vesica Pisces, or the age of Pisces. And so there it is, in the last chapter of the Gospel of John, they had to mention 153 fish that were caught in a net. They don't do this to make 153 fish famous so that they get their, they get their number in the Holy Bible. They do that to leave hints. And there's thousands of these hints. Thousands of them. The Bible's dripping wet with astrological key numbers, and we are just missing them because we're looking for a literal explanation of these things which we will never ever find unless we have the key to understanding that it is an astronomical treatise. It's a great registry of astronomical wisdom.
Okay, well, staying on topic, once the Pope stops wearing the doggone fish head mitre, will that signify the end of the age of Pisces, or will they try to continue that symbolism for as long as they can?
They would show themselves to be a pack of dunces if they continued with the Dogon's mitre. They would need a Uranian or a Saturnian image now. They know that we are in the age of Saturn and Jupiter has been dethroned. So hence the first Jesuit Pope in history, they are Saturnian. They wear black. They have all of the Saturnian attributes. They are assassins. They kill for the Pope. They will murder and poison, and they will do all of those Saturnian things. The other thing is they've been promoting their new logo of their New World Order for a long time, and that would be the Star of David, the so-called, the Seal of Solomon. The Zionists that are nothing but a Vatican arm, just like the Jesuits and the Bilderbergers and the Club of Rome, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of Columbus, and all of these killers. They've been since the 40s, at least, since Israel was a nation. They've been promoting the Star of David. Well, that's the Star of Saturn. It never has been anything other than Saturn's symbol, the hex. Hex has to do with earth. Saturn rules earth. He is earthy. He is agricultural. He is everything to do with the number 6. And so they have been pouncing around on this globe, showing quite boldly their new symbol, just as the Julian family was doing before in the Aryan Age, before Pisces began in 4 BCE. They were telling people that we're going to have an empire and it will be based on Christianity. It will be based on Jesus. The Flavians, it has been exposed quite beautifully by Joseph Atwell and many other writers, how the Flavians, who took over from the Julians, were the first to promote the Piscean Christian Jesus age, and it took them 300 years till Constantine, till they were able to successfully make Jesus, Jupiter Zeus, the new hero who would ultimately debunk Mithras in Rome, who was very prominent, Sabazius, Osiris, Horus, Isis, and all of the other exactly the same archetypes. So what they did was they wanted to have one hero, and rather than do what all the other cultures before them did, and Rome was also, during the Republic days, she was very embracing of other cults. The Persian Mithras was well received in Rome. Isis was well received in Rome. They were not necessarily polytheistic. There's always been just the one God. This is what churchgoers can never grasp. Even though a multiplicity of gods are respected, there is always the one creator God. Only dunces do not understand this. And so this is why they like to corrupt the truth and teach that polytheists, have no concept of the one universal consciousness, which is totally erroneous. All astrologers, all Hermetic philosophers, and wise men and women of the past have had both systems in their practice, because this is how it works. There is one creator, and he expresses the creation through his archetypal energies, and these are what we call gods. In fact, in the Bible, they call them angels. So it's not really a big stretch for these monotheists to understand that they too acknowledge gods, plural. Only they call them angels, and they think that that they are exempt from scrutiny because they call these creatures, these archetypes, angels, servants of God, whereas back in good old Rome, in Republic days, they called them gods. Same difference, same archetypes.
Mm-hmm. Now, I called in as a guest on your Syncretism show and asked you about Pluto and Capricorn. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008 and doesn't leave until 2023. Now, if you all remember, and right on schedule, 2008 was the year of the banking collapse, and in that year I made a video called "Banking Collapse Announces the Beginning of the Golden Age." This is why we're seeing a collapse in government, money, and religion. Now, the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn was in 1776 during the American Revolution, and if you look around, there are revolutions going on all around the world, and this is not a coincidence. Pluto is known as the destroyer and tears down all that is bad and gives us the opportunity to rebuild everything with that which is good. So, Santos, in your opinion, how will Pluto and Capricorn continue to play out for the next 10 years?
Oh, yeah, good question. Well, I'm interested in the aspects and the angles that Pluto is forming with his brothers in the sky, for instance, Uranus, and the other planets, but let's pay particular attention to Uranus in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn. Both of these orbs are very, very destructive to the powers that be or that were. Both of them, they do not handle these two orbs very well at all. You mentioned correctly about the revolutions that happened in the late 1700s, and that was exactly as you said, because Pluto was transiting Capricorn. What he destroys when he is there and transforms at the same time is everything that Capricorn represents. Now, let's deal with that for a little bit. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is very serious. And Saturn rules all of those conventional institutions, you see, outside things from you, outside of you, things that are outside of you, power, supposed power and authority outside of you, through governments, not religions, just political, because the Capricorn-Cancer solstitial axis is purely political. Now, let me just read from Ptolemy, the great astrologer from 2,000 years ago, just so that we can understand what I'm saying here, that the solstice is a political and governmental axis, whereas the equinox with Aries, that has to do with religion and balance and spirituality and ecclesiastical concerns. So let's first of all see if I can find the quote by Ptolemy. Usually just jumps out of, because I've marked it in the book. But Pluto is destroying those external political things and transforming them. He will be squaring with Aries. Now, a square is a very strong angle. That's 90 degrees, of course, because Aries and Capricorn are 90 degrees perpendicular to each other. And you'll find that these squares are very, very strong because Pluto is around about the 7th or 8th degree of Capricorn, and Uranus is around about the 7th or 8th degree of Aries. So it's pretty strong. Now, let's have a look. Yeah, so with Uranus is revolutionary. He's rebellious, very individualistic. I have Uranus in the first house. So if you want a perfect example of a Uranian type of person on the planet, just think of me. I don't fit in anyone's box. I never have. I never will. I rebel against so-called authority. It just doesn't exist, in my opinion, in my knowing, not opinion, in my knowing. I am, well, I've always been pretty original. I've been reminded of that. If I had $1 for every time I was reminded that through my whole life, I'd be a billionaire. So you're going to have some nastiness toward established fictional religions with Uranus in Aries. Now, these two orbs are going to be squaring 7 times during this transit. Now, 7 is a lot of squares. That is a lot of squares. Normally, when they square off at each other, they probably square off 3, 4, 5, 6 at the most times. 7 is pretty much max. To have 2 planets squaring on and off 7 times over a period of about 2 or 3 years, starting from 2011 through 2014, is very, very significant. The religious institutions and the political institutions are going to take a very, very big hit. And look out for the end of Aries, around about the 17th of April, 18th, 19th. You will hear, there will be some more stuff similar to what's already happened in Aries. We've had, at the start of Aries, late March, we had Ireland telling the banks where to go, a la Iceland. And we've had a big meeting in South Africa of the BRIC nations, and they're already about to launch a new currency for the planet to put an end to the blood and killing of the Federal Reserve System, and to put that dollar to rest as JFK tried to do 50 years ago. So the BRIC nations are very, very determined to crash this disgusting evil dollar, which does not belong to Americans. It's a currency which belongs to the filthy, filthy, killing 1% banksters who have nothing better to do than just to steal and benefit themselves. Now, going back to Ptolemy, page 57 of his Tetrabiblios, 4 books, famous work, this one, page 57. The equinoctial signs further indicate the circumstances liable to happen in ecclesiastical concerns and in religious matters. The tropical signs give warning of changes in the atmosphere and in political affairs. I'll stop right there. Say no more.
Wow.
So Capricorn is definitely political. You've got to remember, it's the 10th sign. By the time the sun gets there, the sun is severely diminished. It is the weakest. It's the sign of the weakest potency of the sun. The sun is the shortest days start from the 21st of December, which is the start of Capricorn. The sun is suffering, but the rays of the sun, as Manly P. Hall puts it, are penetrating rather than speeding up or growing, because in Aries is the blossom season. So the sun's rays all the way through to Leo 5 months later, the next fire sign, the sun's rays are actually growing things, whereas the sun in Capricorn is different. It has to pierce and penetrate through matter. It cannot quicken matter. Nothing grows. Everything shrivels and dies and contracts. Therefore, the rays of the sun are of that introverted, penetrating, self-reflecting nature. This is why people do a lot more thinking and writing and reading books during the winter when the sun's in Capricorn. So this sign is cardinal Earth. Earth is the planet. The planet is Earth. So it has to do with kings and ruling and established institutions, political institutions, because it's earthy. It's to do with this Earth. So Pluto transiting there, but squaring with Uranus. If Uranus wasn't in Aries, it wouldn't be such a powerful destruction. But rest assured, these two working together are going to totally transform the face of this planet politically, geopolitically, and religiously. You will find that people are going to make their own path. They're not going to be going to church with Uranus in Aries. They're going to be thinking for themselves. They're going to revolt against the stupidity of patriarchal, monotheistic trash that has been shoved down our throats, and with the fear of getting your head cut off with a Bible in one hand and a sword in another is how we have been seduced to accept this perversity of a doctrine. And so people are going to free themselves. They're going to turn to the Creator, which is, the Bible tells you, God is light. They are going to adore and worship light. And in particular, the still magnetic light, which is the Creator. All things that we see, all of them, anything that you see is a thought wave which emanates from the still, undivided, pure, balanced, powerful, truthful, and loving magnetic light that God is.
Now, Santos, you have an American Freedom Radio show today. Is that in 45 minutes, or is that in an hour and 45 minutes?
I'm hunching it's in about 2 hours and 45 minutes, because Daylight Saving visited us on Sunday this week. So last week it was at 1 p.m. Today it will be at 2 p.m. So in about two hours, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, Heidi, you have a question, right?
Yeah, I thought it would be a good time to ask it, Santos. And you were speaking about the financial energy switching and religious. And I'm here in New York City, where everything is extreme. And I went by a building site today, and they're starting, after the crash, it stopped building, and so it's a big hole in the ground the last number of years, and since 2008. And the foreman said I said, really, they're starting to build again? And he said, oh, yeah. Apparently, this year is going to be the best year for construction ever. And I'm like, I got to ask Santos about that, because it seems like there's these such strong opposing energies going on, and I wanted to know what you think about that, because in New York, you don't see a lot of the there's a big facade going on. So I'd like to know what you think about that, because everything's continuing on as if nothing's happening, and it's a bit bizarre.
Oh, look, the elites have got access to all kinds of astronomical figures when it comes to money. They've got the CAFRA accounts that they know about. They talk about the budget, which is a limited mentality type of approach to controlling people. They tell you that we're short of everything. We're short of air, we're short of water, we're short of everything. So they've got to control it all and charge you taxes for controlling unlimited resource that the universe provides us. So they can pull this off. They can actually make it appear as if, they can do anything they want through their media and through their political agencies to make it look like there is a revival and there is, economic growth. They play with us. You see, they're playing with us all the time. Now, even if it is true, which is probably a good thing short term because it gives people jobs. I don't know why people want jobs. I would rather come to this planet and do work, good work, not jobs. Probably explains why I've only had, very few jobs in my life. Anyway, rest assured, if this money is going to go toward building projects where they build skyscrapers that reach the heavens that look like phallic monstrosities, rest assured that it will only, go on for another few months, because all of these ridiculous phallic male type buildings will be a thing of the past one day. We will laugh at how stupid we were to ever have built one of these dangerous monstrosities and to put people in and house them in these buildings so that their feet don't touch the earth and so that they're not connected with their mother and they're up there in the skies. It's, it's just so ridiculous. This whole idea of building cities with towers that reach the heavens started way back in the corrupt empires of Babylon, Egypt, not the enlightened empires, but when they were corrupted with the coming of the Iron Age, you see. And so men, not women, men have always thought that the taller the building, the more prestige they have, you see. So Donald Trump has got this great big phallic sitting there in New York, and he wants to impress all the girls with his beauty pageants and all of this crap that he's doing. And they all want to impress someone, and I believe there are people that are actually impressed with these monstrosities. Go figure. But this is how it works. We will, even if there is an economical revival and there's all this building going on, it won't last long. People will revert to off-the-grid eco-villages, communities, and we will all just be free and have a party once all of these corrupt agencies are destroyed by our consciousness, and once that unrepentant wrongdoers are jailed, and there's plenty of those. You can just look around and see that they're not really repenting in their droves and saying, "Oops, sorry, we've been sodomizing you folks with all sorts of ridiculous taxes. You don't really actually need to pay taxes. That was just a Ponzi scheme to make the 1% very, very happy while you all suffered. You don't really need to take vaccinations. You might want to let your own body be its own immune system. I think it's the best immune system ever invented in the universe. So a little bit of pussy thimerosal is not going to help your little babies, be healthier. In fact, it's going to give them arthritis, diabetes, and all sorts of shit when they grow older, because they've got a time thing with the vaccinations. They make you sick after many years, not straight away. Because if they did make you sick straight away the way they're supposed to, then these vaccination companies, Bill Gates and that, they'd get busted straight away. They would get busted. They'd be out of business. So they put that time capsule. What do you call it when you make a poison not to go to effect straight away? It takes effect after weeks or months or years. Anyway, that's what they do with the vaccination.
Like a time release kind of thing.
Exactly. So then people, 20 years later, they've got arthritis and they go to their doctor. "Oh, I've got arthritis. I've been eating well. I don't know why I've got arthritis." Of course, because they've been vaccinated. And then the doctor, the well-trained doctor, will give them another treatment. "Here's a treatment for you." All of this has been a big fiction. It's all been about making money for the very, very few, and they're going to have to come clean. If they don't come clean, there will be arrests. There will be mass arrests coming up. Definitely there will be mass arrests, and many of these types, these creepy types, will have to be jailed. I mean, the bar alone has put 7 million innocent Americans in jail. They're languishing in jails just so that their securities and bonds that the bar have created through their constructive court cases, making them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It makes the bar much more money to have people in prison than to be free. They can get a lot more taxes and a lot more revenue from jailed people than free people. So this is why you have all these people in prison.
Hey, Santos, you once said one of the most profound...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to thank you. That timeline is awesome. Thank you.
Santos, you once said one of the most profound things I've ever heard, and I'm paraphrasing. You said that from the moment the sperm fertilizes the egg, we begin dying. We were alive before that. Do you believe that we all chose the exact time and date of our current incarnations?
Yes, absolutely. It is a choice, and this is how it happens. Thomas H. Burgoyne, in The Light of Egypt, Volume 1, explains that when the two parents are together in matrimony, in conjugal relationship, the soul that is wishing to incarnate will enter into incarnation at the propitious and appropriate time when all the celestial dynamics are in place for that soul to incarnate. So in that sense, it is a choice, yes, because we choose the configuration of the planets at the time that we are conceived, because that energy that is with the two parents when they are together, conceiving a child, those energies resonate with the soul. Usually, sometimes accidents and mistakes do happen, and this is where children are born in families that are totally misfits in that family. You know, black sheep, or they come out really antagonistic towards the rest of the family. They have strong criminal inclinations, and they set themselves totally apart from the rest of the family. They go against the flow. These are mistakes that happen because it's an imperfect. Well, I wouldn't even call it imperfect. It's just the way it is. But usually, you incarnate in a soul group, in a family that has the same dynamics in their souls. Their souls come from a similar place. And you'll find that with families. You'll see that. You'll see how some families, they all seem like one cohesive unit. They're really glued well together, and they love each other, and they're just beautiful units. Whereas other families are divided and contrasting and stuff like that. So, but certainly our souls come into incarnation when the timing is right, and when we choose those energies that we need to continue in our path. Some of those energies are very harsh. Why people choose to be born under a Grand Cross, for instance, is perplexing. And yet I have a sister who was born under a Grand Cross, and she's got all the health troubles that you can possibly imagine, severely overweight and obese, mental problems like you wouldn't believe. She's 54, and she hasn't been able to unlock the child, the adult within, and she's been very, very childish all her life. She was hit by a car when she was very, very young and traumatized. A Grand Cross, and in particular a Cardinal Grand Cross that she was born under, is very, very strong and very, very powerful. Now, I can say truthfully and clearly that she is definitely the black sheep of the family. She contrasts with her mother, she contrasts with her father, and she contrasts with the rest of the 5 other family members. She's always antagonistic toward all of us. Firstborn, Saturn in the first house, which ensures that you will be a firstborn. If you have Saturn or Jupiter in the first house, it's more than likely that you are the firstborn. And with a Grand Cross, you can expect mental and emotional and physical difficulties. Now, I've studied lots of people with Grand Crosses, and not all of them have these troubles. But certainly, they have come into the world at a time when they know that they're going to have some challenges. And yet they take these challenges on because they have so much work to do. And whatever you have in your chart, I've never seen a chart that is totally, totally awful and destructive. There is beauty in everyone's chart. You just have to find it, and you just have to see it for what it is. Every chart is a special snowflake, and they are all beautiful, and they are all precious, and all of them have good things and bad things, what we call good and bad, simply because this is the cycle of necessity. It is necessary upon us to, polish this rough diamond of a soul that we have, and to raise it and bring it up to the next level always, wherever we are in incarnation. That is the purpose of incarnation, to work and sublimate the grosser elements of our bodies.
You've mentioned that the ascendant and the midheaven are the 2 most important features in anyone's birth chart. Can you explain why? And before you explain that, actually, Santos did a birth chart reading for me last week, and it was amazing. And maybe you can also explain how people can get in touch with you to have one. But, yeah, you were mentioning about the midheaven and the ascendant being very important. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. The ascendant is the rising sign. That angle is the most powerful of all the angles, what we call the 4 angles. And they roughly correspond to the cardinal angles that I mentioned earlier. Aries, Libra on the equinoxes, and Cancer, Capricorn on the solstices. The Aries, Libra brings balance and spiritual concerns. The Cancer, Capricorn on the tropics, this brings about imbalance, and it brings about political concerns and worldly concerns, rather earthy, materialistic concerns, rather than the spiritual ones of Aries, Libra. But the houses, the house system, that's another thing altogether. The houses or the angles, they are called movable angles. And so the cardinal, when we're talking about the signs, we refer to cardinal signs. When we're talking about the houses, we refer to those as movable, angular, the angular signs. Now, the first and most powerful sign in anyone's chart is the ascendant, the first house, the rising sign. As it rises, all other planets that aspect with it give strength to it. The midheaven is the second most powerful point. That's where the sun reaches midday. So the ascendant is where the sun would be rising. And the midheaven is, of course, midday. Then the third most powerful angle is the sunset angle. That's called the descendant, opposite the ascendant. So where the sun ascends and where the sun descends, these are the angles. Then the fourth most powerful point is the IMC, Imum Caelum, which is below your feet at midnight. That's where the sun is at midnight, directly below your feet. And that angle is also a dark angle. That, of course, that's where darkness is. It's midnight. It has to do with, remember, the sun's rays now are penetrating rather than quickening. So this house has to do with ancestry, fathers, parents, your home, and all of those concerns. Those 4 angles tell 50% of what you are and who you are. Then the other 8 angles, the other houses, they have diminishing importance, and the order of the importance is this. The succedent houses correspond to the fixed signs. They succeed the angular signs. So that would be the second house, immediately following the first house, the fifth house, which follows the fourth house, the eighth house, which follows the seventh, and the 11th, which follows the 10th. Now, the succedent signs have half of the power of the angular signs, exactly half. So they are severely diminished. But of these signs, the most loved are the 11th and the 5th houses. So once you get off the angular houses, 1, 4, 7, and 10, you immediately look for what's in the 11th and the 5th, because good things are found in these houses. Whereas the 2nd and the 8th, Firmicus Maternus says, whichever chart you are doing, you should pray that the native does not have planets in the 2nd or the 8th house. Or let me attend to my dog. I'll fix her. So and you want to pray that the native does not have planets in the 6th or the 12th house, because the 2nd and the 8th, which are succedent signs, are harmful signs, and so are the 6th and the 12th houses, which are cadent signs. So let's go to the cadent signs, shall we? The cadent correspond to the mutable signs, and they are the weakest. They have to do with hidden things and the past, whereas the succedent signs have to do with the future, and the angular signs have to do with now. This is why the angular signs are so important, because they have to do with now and what's happening now. Whereas the succedent signs 2, 5, 8, and 11, these have to do with the future. And so, but going back to your question, the angles, the most powerful sign would be the 1st, and the least powerful would be the 12th. But not in that order. This is the order. For people who want to write down the order, this is the order of the power of the sign. The first house, the ascendant, is number 1. The 10th house, the MC, is number 2. The descendant, the 7th house, is number 3. The 4th house, which is the 4th most powerful sign, is the IMC. Then the 5th is the 11th house, the 6th is the 5th house, the 7th is the 3rd house. And then you stop there, really. Those 7 are the positive ones, and the next 5 border on and go toward negative. And so the 8th most powerful, least powerful sign is the 9th, then the 2nd, then the 8th, then the 6th, and lastly the 12th. And that is the order.
All right. Thank you for explaining that. One thing I was curious about, too, can you explain how the rings of Saturn are related to the rings people exchange during a wedding ceremony?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, Saturn, the keeper of time, obviously you're going to have a ring on your ring finger in honor of Saturn, because he marries couples. Saturn is the officiator there. So and we also wear rings on the ears. The ears, and in particular the right ear, is the domain of Saturn. Capricorn rules the hearing, and Saturn rules the ears and the hearing. Because when the sun's down in Capricorn, there's not much to see. It's dark, it's wet, it's midnight, it's winter. In the daily cycle, it represents midnight, from 1 to 2. In the yearly cycle, it represents the heart of winter, from all of December and January, mostly. So your hearing is going to be more prominent than your seeing. Seeing happens during the day. And the sun rules the seeing, according to Plato. The sun rules the right eye in males, and the moon rules the left eye in males, opposite in females. So we see that the great luminaries have to do with seeing, whereas Saturn, the cold, the wintry, the dark, has to do with another kind of seeing, and that is hearing. When you listen, you are obeying Saturn. This is why they put rings on slaves, so that they would listen, and so that, besides the other beneficial, physically beneficial aspects of putting rings in your earlobe because of the beautiful pressure points and the nerve endings that are there, which relax the rest of the body. It's very therapeutic, but one symbolic reason for earrings is to pay attention to the law of Saturn, because Saturn's law is the highest law. There is no law above Saturn. Saturn is the lawgiver, par excellence. Jupiter also is, and Venus, but Saturn trumps them all.
So when people are exchanging rings under Saturn, hence Satan, through the church, they're really giving their rings in the vows of Satan.
Well, that's who you always make a pact with, the devil, don't you?
Yeah. Well, that leads us to the next question too. Do you believe that the God in the Bible is an all-loving God, or is he a bipolar psychopath?
Well, it depends if we're talking about God is light, or we're talking about the Lord Jehovah. See, when the Bible says God is love, God is light, that is unconditional light, consciousness, and love. That's talking about the Creator, the prime source Creator. But when it talks about the Lord Jehovah and he's jealous in his fury and he shall destroy the wicked in his day of vengeance, that's talking about the demiurge. And he is both loving, very, very loving, but also very, very destructive. And he is Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Mercury, the moon, and the sun, the seven. That's who Jehovah, the Lord, is. So when churchgoers are praying to the Lord, they really have no idea that they are actually praying to the demiurge, which is both good and evil. And he tells you in Isaiah, where he says, I give you good, I give you evil. I give you the truth, I give you the lie. That's their job.
We have a person in the chat room. And by the way, people, feel free to call in. The number is 646-716-8890. I see we already have one caller waiting. And Nicholas in the chat room wanted to ask you a question. He wants to know if there's any symbolism related to the Lyrids meteor shower on April 22nd.
Yeah, I'm glad he reminded me of that, because I haven't thought of about that for a long time. I wouldn't be able to offer any sensible information right now unless I really look at the 22nd of April in terms of astrologically. Then I might be able to offer something. And I might do that if I get a chance while we're talking. How's that?
Oh, that's great. Heidi, there's a caller in the chat room. Would you like to bring that caller in? Well,
I was on mute there. Sure. 408.
Hello.
408. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hi. What's your name?
My name's Steve. I'm calling you from San Jose, California. I had a question Hi there. I had a question for Santos. I just was listening to the OPPT show here, and I know he's familiar with that. I'd like his take on the first 2 weeks in July. We have in the heavens we have a situation where, as you know, Saturn is going to station and then move forward. At the same time, Neptune is drifting back. And then we have Jupiter coming into Cancer, and for a few days they form a grand trine in water. And the OPPT people are asking, when will the value be released? And would this be, considering the planets, the houses, well, not houses, but the fact that it's water, would this be an emotional turning point or trigger for, the value contained, of course, in the Saturn in Scorpio, which is, of course, shared value? And so, could you comment on that? Have you looked at that?
I'm looking at it right now because I've done this. I've done July the 1st. I can see the kite and the grand trine in water. Jupiter loves Cancer. He exalts in Cancer, and Cancer is all about June, the month June, and Juno is the reason for the month. It's about Juno, the consort of Cancer. So no wonder Jupiter exalts in Cancer. And we've got Saturn in Scorpio. Not a bad placement for Saturn. Not his best. Neptune in Pisces is perfect. Again, we have the ruler of Pisces. So we've got very appropriate planets for the water signs. This grand trine will be, will have to do with emotional and psychic things on the planet. These watery planets signs have to do with the water element and the emotions. So you can expect, I would suggest, an uplift of beautiful emotional feelings on the planet. A grand trine is a harmonious. It's the opposite of what I spoke about before, the Grand Cross. If you've got a grand trine, you have lots and lots of harmonious energy in your chart. It doesn't necessarily pan out to pure good. It can be too much good. In the sense of laziness. I've found that a lot of people with grand trines, tend to, just float around and just wait for things to happen to them, because great harmonious energy is all around them, and so they don't sort of be as motivated as, say, someone with a T-square in their sign or something like that. So harmonious, watery, emotional energy from great placements of planets. I look at the time in July, the head of the dragon will be in Scorpio with Saturn. So the Rahu, the head of the dragon in Scorpio, trining with Jupiter in the sign of his exaltation in June, late June, trining with Neptune in Pisces, the ruler of that sign. This is going to be a magnificent time in our history. I think, I believe. Right.
Do you think this could be the event? They talk about a cosmic and universal event. Could this be more of the Neptune permeating, the emotional outpouring?
Neptune is very inspirational on his good side. It's pure inspiration. Some Bible astrologers call Neptune the Holy Spirit, the Holy Dove. You'll notice that it looks like a stylized menorah, the Jewish candelabra. It is a holy sign. In Pisces, he thrives in Pisces. I think water is one of the special elements. It's the closest to magnetism that you'll get. The fire is electricity. Air is kinetic energy. Earth is kinetic energy, and air is chemical energy of the universe, whereas water is magnetic. So magnetism, it's a magnetic universe, which produces the electric universe that we see, but it is a magnetic universe and an electric dual verse. So a grand trine in water is probably the best trine you can get, in my opinion, when it comes to spirituality and psychic things.
Right.
It's magnetism. So I'm thinking it's good. I'm thinking that it's going to be a really, really good thing.
I think so, yeah. And so people may be able to come together on a more emotional level, and since you got Jupiter, Saturn, that's the belief system and the structure, and then the Neptune, there may be a big shift for a lot of people, that have prominent planets at that, about 5 degrees, I believe, 4 to 6 degrees. So that should be monumental for those people. Yeah.
Look, these are not just any planets. Jupiter is perfect there in Cancer, Neptune in Pisces, Saturn not so. It's the house of Mars, so it's a couple of malefics there. But you've got to remember, water has to do with humanity too. In the Bible, it talks about the waters, the sea. This is why the Vatican own the Holy See, the biggest corporation on the planet, because the Holy See, the sea is dealing with humanity. So if we've got 3 big planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, these guys, they are big and very powerful. Lots of angular momentum there. And they are in the signs of water, which represent humanity. I believe that this is humanity holding hands together and saying, hey, we always were, we always were here for each other. Let's hold hands. We have the power. The 1%, if they're still around, dominating the planet, the 1% have the control, but we have the power. And I think this is a good opportunity for us, under a grand trine, to show our solidarity and fraternity and unite once and for all. This is the only thing that the elites fear. There's only one thing that they fear, and that is for the sheeple to wake up and do this. And we will.
Well, very good. That was my feeling. I just want to get your take on it. And I've got Mars-Uranus conjunction at like 3 degrees of Cancer. And my sun gets, when Saturn stations, it squares my sun directly. So I'm going to have a heck of a good time. All righty.
Wow.
Well, I appreciate you kind of filling in what I felt.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Steve. Santos, last week we had Jordan Maxwell on in 5D Radio and asked him the same question I'd like to ask you. In your opinion, who or what is the Antichrist?
Oh, the Antichrist, there's quite a few answers to that, because there's many levels of the Antichrist in operation. But if you look at... supposedly all the presidents in the US are supposed to be Christian, right? It would be very audacious of a president to say, "Hey, guess what? I'm an Islamist. I'm Islamic, a Muslim," because you'll have some trouble with that. Now, so are they real Christians? No, they're not. You can rest assured that their Christianity is all about satanic child sacrifices and very, very dark Masonic practices, including, we know what the Bohemian Grovers do, we know what Skull and Boners do, the Bilderbergers, and all of these elite people. They are like lambs in public, and they speak, such pontificating, magnanimous words like, we are about change, and yes, we can, and God is with us, and all of this. That's the Antichrist, because these people put themselves, they nudge the true Christ, which is consciousness and awakening, out of the way, and they wage a war of terrorism against that consciousness. They are against the awakening, so they are the Antichrist, and the bar. Just look at the Vatican, the bar, the monarchies. These are the Antichrist on earth. They are pure Antichrist. They do not want a consciousness awakening and mankind coming together as a brotherhood and living in our communities without anyone telling us what to do. They could never stand that. They will never be able to have their cocktail parties if that happens. So that is the Antichrist. But the Antichrist is also people who deny their own divinity. We can be Antichrists ourselves if we deny that we are God. It's very frustrating and sad to see. I mean, it's understandable that churchgoers will say, "Oh, you're not God. How dare you say that?" But when you get so-called enlightened people, and I get so-called truthers attack me for saying that we are God. I had one the other day, a doctor, believe it or not, Dr. So-and-so, who I've known for about a year and a half. She says, "A student of mine tells me that you said on one of your radio shows, Santos, that you are God." First of all, if you've got students, you're an idiot and you think you're a guru, which you're not. Okay? Call no one Father on this earth, for one is your Father who is in the heavens. Call no one teacher who is on this earth, for one is your teacher who is in the heavens. And that teacher is your unconditioned consciousness that you are connected to. So, for a start, you fail, Dr. So-and-so, by accusing me and having students. Oh, how creepy. Ooh. I mean, all these creeps that go around, charging $600 to come and hear me channel Zerubbabel from the Pleiadians, Please, give me a break. No one's a guru. Rather than giving people fish, teach them how to fish. Now, and that's what astrology does. You see, this is why they never talk about astrology. They don't share the science of astrology. They share, "Oh, I'm special. I've channeled some information that you can't possibly do. You have to come to me and pay $600, you idiots." So Dr. So-and-so is an idiot for a start. Sorry, am I cutting off?
No, we're here. We're okay.
You know what? I might have to go to my show, guys. American Freedom Radio calling me. I might have the times wrong. So.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah. It's 2 hours earlier than you were right, Greg.
Well, we'll have to get you back on because there was a bunch of callers and we still had a bunch of questions. So if we can get you back on, that'd be great. And if you want to tell everybody how to get in touch with you, especially for your chart readings, that'd be great too.
Yeah, I'm going to be busy though for chart readings, but because I'm preparing to go to Ecuador. But universaltruthschool.com. There you go.
Okay. Well, Santos, thank you so very much. We would love to have you back on. And like I said, I know there's a lot of callers that didn't get the chance to get their questions answered, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry, folks. But if you would come on again, that would be wonderful. And at least we have a better idea of what our time frame is right now, too.
Exactly. Thanks, Greg. Okay. Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, listeners.
Thanks, Santos.
Thanks so much, bye-bye. Santos. All right, bye-bye now.
Bye.
Yep, and I'm sorry, folks. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little misunderstanding about the time schedule, and we were just appreciative of whatever time we did have Santos here. So we did get one caller in, and apologize for anybody else that wasn't able to get through, and we will definitely have him back again. So we're looking at just 2 minutes left anyway. So thank you everybody for coming in and being part of this amazing program, our chat with Santos, and looking definitely forward to having him back next week. Well, Heidi, why don't you tell people about our guests coming up?
Sorry, Blog Talk is talking to me. We have next week we have an astrologer, Kelly Rosario, on, who's actually about to head to Italy to do a really interesting conference, and she's just a bundle of positive energy. So get your astrological questions lined up for her. And then the following week, we have Els Baston, who is an animal who is just the most divine energy, one of the most divine energies I've ever encountered. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And again, if you have pets or a fondness for animals, this is a show that you'll thoroughly enjoy. She has some skills that I'm sure all of us have to some degree, one degree or another, but she's devoted her life to it. So that's going to be a very cool show.
And we were just talking about possibly getting Stephen Greer on. We're going to see if we can contact him and see if he'd like to be part of the show. Also, Graham Hancock, I spoke with his son, and he said that it looks great, that we should be able to get Graham Hancock on as well. So we got some pretty big names coming up, and it's really exciting. So, looking forward to all these great guests that we're having.
Going to be, I'm really excited. Yeah, I think the Stephen Greer, that would be a really well-timed one because of his film coming out in a week, I think. Yeah, so it's the 22nd, I think. So that would be brilliant.
There is a person, 786 is right there. They're still hanging on. They've been hanging on for a while. I don't know if they just wanted to say hi or have a comment, but 786, you're live on N5D Radio. Are you there?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Welcome to N5D Radio. What's your name?
Oh, my gosh. My name is Lee.
What's your name?
My name is Lee.
Leland.
Lee, just Lee.
Lee. Okay, hi, Lee.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, Heidi. It's so nice to talk to you guys. I mean, I see the website. I've been on your website for the last year. I've been paying attention. And it's just so much information. I love the news. It's so informative. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for being part of the...
I really want to say thank you.
No, thank you for being part of the N5D family. I know people can... There's a search box in the upper right-hand corner of every web page, and people can just start searching, and they get lost. And people will be on that website for literally 5-6 hours at a time. And if they're not doing that, they're chatting for like another 3 or 4 hours because there's a live chat at the bottom of every web page.
It's a beautiful thing, I swear.
And thank you.
I believe you stay in Sarasota, correct? That's not too far from where I am, which is somewhere in Miami. But still. Maybe I'll get a chance to hang out one day.
Well, I was thinking about having an N5D kind of like get together, and I'll post it. Yeah, I'll post it on N5D. And it'd be cool if people could make arrangements and come on down to Sarasota and meet at Siesta Key Beach. Like I said, the sand there is 99% quartz crystal. It's amazing. It really is.
Oh, I would still be there. That sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah, especially if we did it like during the summer where it's like, off season, and it'd be cheaper for hotels for everybody, and it'd be a blast. And they have a drum circle on Sunday nights here, too, which is amazing, too. So if people could actually make it through the whole weekend and enjoy the drum circle on Sunday night, that'd be even amazing.
Wow, an inside drum circle. That would change some energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, like I said, it's a beautiful thing. Whatever you got going on, it's really beautiful. N5D, Greg, Heidi, you guys actually had Santos bonacci. I've been watching his videos. I really did have a question, but I was busy, and I wasn't able to pick up the line till recently. So, really a really nice blessing that you guys have.
Well, yeah, he's going to be back on too. So we're really blessed to have the people that are coming on, and I'm really happy with our role in this awakening process.
Yeah. Grateful, humble.
Yes, that's the word.
Yes, that's the word, right? That's the word.
Yeah.
Very humble.
Yeah. And grateful. Yeah, both.
Most definitely. But thank you so much for inviting me, even though it's just for a few moments.
Indeed. No, thank you for calling, Lee, and feel free to call in any time.
Good to talk with you, Lee. Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again in the next episode.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, my friend. All right, well, you have a great evening.
Night.
You too. Thank you for calling. Take care now.
Yeah.
Oops. Yep. So
Okay,
that's our show for you, folks. Anything you like to say? Anything you like to say in closing?
Oh no, just well, I had a blast. I learned so much every time we do these shows. So I'm now going to go digest it all, I think, and maybe listen again. That's a lot. It's good.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, when he was talking about the most important aspects and things to look for on your chart, he said, write this down. And I had so many things, like I was paying attention to the chat room as well, and everybody's multitasking, and we're all absorbing this. So I'm going to have to go back through and take some notes on this.
So he's an intense professor, that's for sure, an intense professor.
Uh-huh.
Like, yes. And he knows all of it. His brain is so fast. What distilled water will do for a soul. And he's an example of it.
Mm-hmm. So just as a reminder, next week we have on Kelly Rosano, astrologer, and she has this amazing energy, and you guys are going to love her. So definitely come on back next week. For those people who have missed the show, I post all of the shows on my In5D YouTube channel. So just go to In5D on YouTube, and you'll find it there. And I'll also post it on in5d.com the following day. So, in case you miss it, you're going to catch it one way or the other. So we're going to close out with a song written and performed by my co-host, Heidi. And as I mentioned, next week will be Kelly Rosano. So tune in for that. And just want to say thank you once again to everybody that tuned in and listened. And namaste to everyone.
Namaste, guys.